South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has approved a second dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. These are boosters. The vaccine will be administered to people aged 18 and older who received their initial dose more than 2 months ago. To talk more about this, we're joined by the Department of Health's Deputy Director General, Dr. Nicholas Crisp. Dr. Crisp, always good to speak to you. I'll speak to you about the issue of the boosters in a moment, but first, if I may, your reaction to the news this afternoon that the price of the rapid antigen tests is being brought down to 150 Rand.
Yeah, well, we're very happy about that. My colleagues in the Department of Health have been working very closely with the Competition Commissioner, who's been talking to the various companies about both the PCR tests and the whole range of tests that are available, including the antigen tests. So we're very happy that that has happened. Obviously, we would like the price to even lower than that. That's the maximum price that's been set.
Too little, too late? Some are saying. Do you agree?
Well, but better late than never if you're going to stick to, I think it's good that it's come down. We would have liked it to have come down long ago, but at least it's come down now.
Okay. Let's talk about the issue of the J&J boosters to be rolled out from tomorrow. The waiting period is different with J&J. Pfizer is 6 months. J&J is 2 months. Why is that?
So, Temekile, vaccines are completely different. The J&J vaccine is what we call an Ad26 vaccine. It's made in a completely different way and it performs differently. You will know that it's also a single-dose vaccine at the moment, and Pfizer is a 2-dose primary vaccine. So each vaccine is different, and the way in which they interact with our bodies is different. I don't want to try and go into all the technical details of what they are. But so what happened was that some time back, Pfizer applied for their vaccine to be approved for giving boosters at 6 months after the second of the 2 primary doses. That was approved, and that 6 months is up on the 28th of December. And in other words, the first people who got Pfizer vaccine second doses will have their 6-month time period of the interval will be up on the 28th. And then for those who got a Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the vaccine manufacturer applied for a booster dose to be administered, and the clinical data and the technical data has shown that the interval is best after about 2 months up to 6 months. So from 2 months onwards, people can go for their vaccination with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
You have, as a department, been encouraging people who got the Pfizer shot previously to return for their second dose so they can be fully vaccinated. Now, when you look at the rate of people who aren't returning for the second Pfizer shot, does that concern you as far as the success of the booster rollout overall?
Yeah, well, obviously it's disappointing because we know that you get better coverage and better protection if you are fully vaccinated. And that's what we are trying to show now with booster doses. Our immunity to the COVID virus reduces over time. We call it waning. And at the point where it's sufficiently reduced to be of concern that we're not appropriately and properly protected, then that's what a booster is about. Now, with Pfizer, right from the beginning, they showed that with a single dose, the protection is limited. And it's only when you get the second dose after anywhere from around 42 days appears to be the best time to get the stimulus to your body's immune system again, you get a very good immune and sustained immune response, which then lasts for 6 months. So it is better if people come back. What it does is it protects against severe illness. So the problem with a single dose of Pfizer is that you will be protected to an extent, but not as fully as if you've had a full vaccination.
And Doctor, the last time you and I spoke, there'd just been news out of the United States where people were being told that while the J&J vaccine is not being ruled out, if you have a choice, take another was the advice. I know in South Africa, the data was apparently not too damning or damning at all as far as the efficacy of the J&J shot, especially in light of the Omicron variant. Are you still paying attention to what is being said internationally about this vaccine?
Yeah, well, the Americans are not internationally. They're one country out of many, of course. And just because the CDC has said something does not mean the whole world has to follow it. There's been an article I've just been reading this afternoon from African countries slating the announcement of the CDC and saying it was highly irresponsible. Timikile, I think I said to you last time, I believe that's more an economic decision than a scientific decision. If you've got companies that are registered in your country and pay tax in your country, and you want to promote the use of that vaccine to protect the economy or the industry, that's a whole different ballgame from wanting to make sure that your people have access to good vaccines. We know that both the vaccines we use are good vaccines, and we are happy that they are both available. We know that they perform in different ways, but we are not unhappy with the way in which we are rolling them out and making them accessible. So we will continue, and we are completely happy to do so with Johnson & Johnson vaccine, notwithstanding what the United States or one agency in the United States has said.
Another question I've asked you before is about the mixing of these vaccines. Will we ever mix them?
Yeah, we probably will. It's not that complicated, except that you need to have approval that the safety and the efficacy of the vaccines is justified. And the way in which we do that in countries is to use a regulator. And our regulator has only received application for a mix and match of Johnson & Johnson after Pfizer, and only received that last week, and that's part of the approval that they gave yesterday. So we are not geared to implement that, and they have not received an application from Pfizer to boost after a Johnson & Johnson or some other Ad26 vaccine. So until that happens, we don't have all the mix and match options available to us. So what we'll do is we'll wait until, well, now it's Christmas and New Year, and in the beginning of the new year, when the Vaccine Ministerial Advisory Committee meets, we'll give them a chance to look at the now more current data and to comment and advise the minister on which way we should be going.
Also, I mean, not internationally, but another country that is now looking at a different approach, shall we say, to boosting is Israel. People there will now get a fourth vaccine shot. How closely will you be monitoring the data from that?
Yeah, so we watch what goes on around the world in all countries. There's, these days it's very easy to do that because there are, there's a lot of exchange of data between the scientists, and then there are the public dashboards which are available to everybody. But our science colleagues who sit on our ministerial advisory committees advise us on what they are seeing. You can, if you boost soon, you do get an immune response. I mean, that's what, when we talk about boosting, the stimulus of what we inject into you gets your body to make immunity. It boosts your immunity. That's what boosting means. And if you have a lot of money and you're able to do it every 3 months and it's safe to do it every 3 months, that's fine. But if you don't have a lot of money and the efficacy is marginal at 3 or 4 compared with 6 months, then it's more cost effective to wait a little bit. And of course, we also have quite a large proportion of our population who've had wild virus infection and have some immunity from that wild virus infection. So each country's profile of how our immunity has responded is different. And although we look at what others are doing, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily appropriate for the environment we find ourselves in.
Are you discussing boosters for children, the 12 to 17-year-olds, at all at this point?
So there's no application for any vaccine boosting for children from 12 to 17 at this point. There may well be applications in due course, and we are aware that there are already applications in other countries for vaccinating children under the age of 12. And in fact, in some countries, it's already been approved. So when those applications are made, again, our experts who sit on these various committees and authorities will examine the data and advise us whether it is appropriate for our setting.
Final question then, Dr. Crisp. When might we expect a final answer on the conversation that's been going on this week about doing away with quarantining for people who are contacts of those who've tested positive, as well as stopping testing for asymptomatic cases?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion over the last 10 days, and especially over the weekend and this week, where we do a lot of our consultation after we discuss inside the National Department of Health and with the Minister. Then there's discussions that take place with the provincial departments, and they have made submissions. There's a meeting where we regularly meet with the private sector. We know what their views are. And then we'll look at everything, including contact tracing, quarantining in different settings, isolation, what to do around what we call congregate settings like old age homes and so forth. So we will have a comprehensive response to that. And we've been putting the inputs together over the last 24 hours. So I anticipate that sometime early next week, we should have some conclusion on that.
Dr. Nicholas Crisp, good to speak to you. Deputy Director General in the Health Department, speaking to us on the latest developments around COVID-19, the rollout of those J&J Johnson & Johnson boosters. If you're vaccinated more than 2 months ago, you can line up from tomorrow.